There are a lot of downswing killers, and I'm going to talk to you about how to make sure you don't fall into any of those traps. All right, guys, so this week I'm going to talk to you about some of the biggest downswing killers that I see on a daily basis. Now, the first thing we are going to address is why players hit slices because of problems in their downswing. I'm going to go on and start talking about why people hit it too high, why you see the big hook. But let's get those slicers done first. Now, a lot of times you'll see a player getting in here, coming down with a wide open club face and a super steep shaft. Now that's a combo that just leads to disaster every single time. Once we start pulling the hands down, you see a lot of players go into this place where they get extension in their lead wrist. If we have extension, that tends to take the face and open it. Once it starts getting open, slices will occur. Now, if we get steep and we get our hands moving too far away from our body, we're going to cut across that golf ball. Now the key is to bring the hands into the body tighter coming down, right? We want to be in a position where the club head stays just behind the hands and can work more out to the golf ball and impact. All right, if we can do that, we're going to be in a good position in terms of shaft movement. If you get the hands working a little bit more out, but the shaft's falling even more behind, that's okay too. Now the next key is getting either the grip strong enough, the V's over at your right shoulders, or learning how to get enough flexion in your wrist to get the club face to start turning down more. That is a huge key, getting the club face under control if we don't want to hit a big slice. Now, from there, club face is under control, trap behind the hands, we can just rotate through and get the path more neutral. Slice solved. Do that and you're going to get rid of that slice and you're going to be a happier golfer. Now, another reason I see players adding a lot of loft is because they start early extending and throwing their hands through. So early extension is a major downswing killer. Now, a lot of times that happens because of one of the things we were talking about earlier. If you get in here and you get this shaft super steep, one of the answers is stand up. It gets it behind my hands and allows me to come more from the inside. So if you're the player that sees yourself early extending, go ahead and look at what the shaft is doing and see if I need to get it more behind my hands early. I am a big proponent of the club falling backwards early in the downswing. I don't want to have a player do it late just before impact or around P6. Get up here, feel that you are going to leave your hands loose, don't pull down, and try and float into your lead foot. If you're floating in, that club will want to fall more behind your hands, and you're going to be in a position where you can just rotate through the strike. Now the final downswing killer that I really want to talk about is the player that hits the big hook. Now if you get in here and you start to see this club face really shut at P6, or if you're someone who slams everything down late with your hands, you can start to see the hooks. Now we want to make sure our club face is passive as possible when we're rotating through impact, right? We want to get in here and just turn our body to get everything rotating. So that goes back to making sure that the club face is in a good position coming down. Now, when I get to P6, I want to look at this. I see the club head just behind my hands. That club head should be curled slightly down at an angle. I don't want to see it getting too far curled down. A good checkpoint is, does it match my spine angle if I'm able to keep my posture? That is a great checkpoint for all players. You start getting in that position, you can get rid of that late curl down. Now another reason I see the big hook is because the club head gets too far out and cuts cross and everything starts closing down. So you do have to make sure your shaft pitch is coming down and hidden in the hands. I hope this video helps you get rid of some of your biggest downswing killers, and I hope to see you next week. Hey guys, welcome back to Lessons from the Road. So today I am at beautiful Beverly Country Club just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and I am going to talk to you about how body tilts can affect your golf swing and the positions that you need to be in every single time to make a great swing. One thing people don't really think about other than how the club is moving is positions that we need to put our body in to make things function the way we want. And there's a difference in tilts between your driver and an iron. So we have to first understand the way our body can tilt. I can get side bend here at the pelvis, so that's right side bend, that's left side bend. I can get crunch in my shoulders, just above my rib cage there, and I can also get forward bend and I can get back bend in my golf swing. Now, learning how to time all those positions up and where all those movements are going to happen is absolutely critical. Now, when I'm setting up to a golf ball, I'm going to get some forward bend here at my pelvis. Now, everything is towards the golf ball. I don't generally see, with an iron, a whole lot of bend. The shoulders are generally going to be pretty flat here, just bending and tilting down towards the golf ball. Now, if I'm looking at hitting a driver, I'm going to go into some of this crunch, which allows my shoulders to tilt. Now, as I move my club up and I'm trying to hit up on the golf ball, that's an incredibly important position to hit. Now, as I start my backswing, I'm going to work my way out of the forward bend that I started with. You'll notice that when I'm going back, I start with a little bit of this forward bend, but then I'm going to work my way into extension of my lower spine if I'm trying to stay centered over the golf ball. If you want to get some movement off, you can just stay more in forward bend. That's not a movement that I really like a lot of my players to get into, but it is something that you can function out of well. You notice some players start getting extension early in the backswing, other players go into that extension late in their backswing. If you're doing it late, that can lead a lot of players into a reverse pivot. So I try and get my beginning golfers to get into that extension earlier. So after we get to the top of our backswing, you'll notice that I have moved into extension, but I'm also putting this crunch here at my rib cage so that I can see down to the golf ball. That's going to put me in the position where I get that tilt. If you don't have that inclination, it can lead to a whole lot of issues going flat, coming over the top, that we don't want to see in our golf swing. So make sure you get that crunch there at the top. You'll feel a little bend here at the pelvis and your spine will be extended. Now, when I'm working down into the golf ball, I like my players to add flexion at the pelvis. You'll notice their knees are bending, but everything's going to work back down into forward bend in the initial transition. Once you get back down there, we've created engagement with the ground. Now, I'm removing some of the initial tilt that I had where I dug down with my lead shoulder, and I'm going to start the process of getting my trail shoulder more down to the golf ball. So I go up, I work into forward bend, then this shoulder is going to start going up, and I'm going to start noticing with an iron a lot of crunch here with my trail side to get me down to the golf ball. Now, if I have a driver in my hand, it's going to be a little bit different. I'm not trying to retain that forward bend through impact. I'm going to try and work into a little bit more back bend. I want to feel my head is moving backwards away from that golf ball so that I can keep my eye on the back of the golf ball and hit up on it every time. There's one really important cue to remember when you're trying to hit a golf ball. The more forward bend I retain through impact, the more tilt I have towards the camera, the more my hands will get ahead. Now, that's going to lead to a lower golf shot. The more I work quicker into extension, the higher I will hit the golf ball. So if you can work your way through those tilts and feel them, you are going to start having a better understanding of the golf swing. Your understanding of the body needs to improve if you want to hit the perfect golf shot every time. All elite level players have tons of body movement, and learning how to sequence it up is critical to playing good golf. There are several backswing killers that can affect every single player. I want to make sure that you don't fall into that trap this week. All right, guys, welcome back to Lessons from the Road. So today is day 2 here at Eagle Rock Golf Club just outside of Edmonton, Alberta, and I'm going to talk to you about some of the biggest backswing killers that I see. Now, a lot of players fall into these traps, and most of these mistakes start right away in your backswing. The first issue I'm going to talk about is the player that loses connection. Now, losing connection between your arms and your body can put you in a troubling situation really early. That is when a player sets up, starts taking the club back, and their arms and hands start moving away from their body. Anytime you lose that connection early, the club can't just keep traveling up this direction. It's going to have to start moving behind me. And a lot of players get into a position where everything gets really laid off at the top of their backswing. When we find ourselves in a position where everything's really laid off, you notice that a lot of players start tugging everything in this direction. Now, that's the over-the-top move, and it is a golf swing killer. And it started just because we got into a position where our hands moved away early. Feel like when you're making your movement, this lead arm is going to stay tight to the chest. Now, everything's going to get into a position where back near P2, the club is pretty close to my toe line that I've set up with. Another major killer that I see out of a lot of players is when they get in here, even if they pull back connected, the club head starts rolling behind the hands. Anytime that club head gets back there, you are going to be in a position where you have to stand it up late in your golf swing. Now, when you're standing it up late, a lot of players start to get crossed up. Now, from here, you see that really narrow downswing, the club moves too far away from the body, and the player has a really hard time working back into impact. Now, the third major issue that I see out of a lot of players that really kills them is when they're going back, they lose body tilts. You start to see the shoulders go really flat up to the top of the backswing. You start to see the pelvis lose its inclination, the knees don't have inclination, and you get yourself in a lot of trouble. Once everything goes flat, odds are the player's going to start pulling the club out in front of them. That club goes out in front of you, we know that's a death move. So if you're really trying to improve your backswing, make sure you keep your arms and your hands connected, you don't get in a position where the club head's rolling behind your hand, and you keep inclination in your body. Try and find a position where everything's working up to the top. We have inclination in my knees, hips, and shoulders. That's going to allow me to rotate well down to the golf ball. I hope this video helped, and I hope to see you next week. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, comment, and subscribe. I greatly appreciate your help in growing this community. I come out with new content every Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Thanks a lot, you guys.